It's just revision. The questions are there in front of you. 5 questions from the first session of Dr. Karki. Is it visible to everyone? Rahul sir?
Yes, sir.
Questions are visible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Try to attempt.
सर ज्वाइन किए सर जीत सर
अभी चेक कर लेते हैं सर.
हाँ सर ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं इफ देयर इज एनी इशू तो उनको कॉल करके ज्वाइन करवाइए सर
Okay, now I end the poll. Now you saw the results. Results are there.
हेलो हरीश सर
Yes, sir. Dr. Jeet Kumar
डॉक्टर
Gupta
उर्मी
joined.
डॉक्टर उर्मी सेन गुप्ता मैम इज आल्सो ऑलरेडी ज्वाइन सो काइंडली काइंडली सेलेक्ट एज ए पैनलिस्ट
हो
Fine.
गया मेरा हो गया आई जॉइंड इट
गुप्ता सर ज्वाइन कर लिए
हाँ मैं
Yes,
ज्वाइन
sir.
कर गया नगेंद्र आई जॉइंड
हेलो गुड इवनिंग सर
हाँ नगेंद्र मैं ज्वाइन कर गया आई
जी
जॉइंड थैंक यू थैंक यू
I hope everyone got the result also. Now I am stop sharing. Very good evening, sir,
वेरी गुड
and welcome to you, sir, to the
Thank you.
platform. Welcome,
Thank
sir. Uh,
कैन वी स्टार्ट मित्तू सर
yes, sir. Sure.
now Professor Dr. Urmi Sen Gupta from United Kingdom joined sir
Yes,
as a
sir.
panelist
Yes.
kindly
And
promote
Karki sir also.
kindly promote her as a panelist sir
Already
Ma'am,
promoted, sir.
okay thank you so okay my video is not visual I think
Yes, your camera is on. Now
right
you are.
okay
Yes, working. Now it's working. Beautiful background.
okay so so very good evening to everyone present here it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to day 2, session 3 of our ATAL FDP development program. This evening from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., we have the privilege of hosting a very special distinguished speaker, Architect Jit Kumar Gupta, former advisor, town planning, Punjab Urban Development Authority. As far as we talk about Professor Dr. Gupta, he is very renowned architect and planner in India. Not only in India, internationally acclaimed architect also. Architect Gupta is a visionary in the field of urban and regional planning with decades of experience in shaping policies and practices that have transferred our cities. His expertise, leadership, and scholarly contribution in town planning and sustainable development are widely recognized across India and globally also. Today, he will be sharing the thoughts on a subject that holds global importance and local urgency, sustainable transportation. As we all know, mobility is the lifetime achievement for the city, lifeline of the urban settlements, but rapid urbanization has brought challenges of congestion, pollution, and inequality. Sustainable transportation is not only essential needs for the people and the city, that is, but about ensuring accessibility, equity, safety, and environmental uh, progression and generations is very important in upcoming time. I am confident that his insight drawn from the both policy making and practice will inspire us as educators, researchers, professionals, architects, planner, and we all together rethink how we can integrate sustainability into the future of our built environments. On behalf of the lovely professional university and the entire ATAL FDP team, HRDC LPU, I extend a warm and respectful welcome to renowned architect planner of India, Architect Jit Kumar Gupta sir. We are truly honored to have you with us, sir. I now invite you to kindly enlighten us with your knowledge and experience on this very important themes. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome you, sir, once again, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nagendraji, for giving this, I think, introduction which I don't deserve. I remain one of the learners, or basically what cities are, what architecture is. And thank you for spacing me in this program. I'm grateful to Lovely Professional University also for giving me this opportunity to see and discuss and basically brief about what my understanding about the green sustainability is. So, is my PPT available?
Visible, sir.
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Just go in the slide mode. Slide mode, sir.
I'll just do it. Is it available now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's
Go
moving
ahead, sir.
also. It's moving.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Perfect,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you very much. The task given to me is just defining agenda for sustainable transport. As Nagendra ji has already said, that transport is mobility is an integral part of human living. So therefore, we're all involved in this exercise itself. And when you look at these cities, the Corbusier also said, when you dissect the entire lifespan of human living on this planet Earth, we do 4 kinds of job. Number 1 is living, second is working, third is cultivate body and spirit, and fourth is the travel. He says when we come here, everybody is living, and the quality of life remains the first and foremost agenda for any city to define and provide. Secondly, when we're here on this planet Earth, we are supposed to work, And accordingly, we have the work culture has to be given the second priority. Thirdly, he said, cultivate body and spirit. That means, as a human being, if we have to live a quality life and do a work, we should be physically and mentally happy and healthy. And that's what he says. The city must be able, in addition to providing good living, good working, space and activity and institution, which can make people happy and healthy, both physically and mentally. And fourthly, as a human being, we need to travel to access living, to working, and spaces or institutions which are created. So there are four activities which we are doing and which we are to do in our life cycle. So therefore, you can think of the order of this is also provided that quality of life remains first, second is work, third is working, third is your making people happy and healthy, fourth and last is your travel. So please make sure whenever you're doing any kind of job, this priority will make your cities happy and healthy places to live. And that is the agenda which we will be discussing itself, As Nagendraji has said, mobility remains the sense of human living. It promotes growth and development. It provides accessibility. It is essential for any society to develop. It is essential for all accessing all kind of basic amenities and services. It is essential for travel and tourism, for employment, for education, for sourcing economic activities, for concentration of people or decentralization of people. So mobility remains an best agenda for economical and social growth of a society. In fact, nothing will move without the transportation. And that's what we have to see, that they are, important, they are relevant. But one thing you must see, if the mobility remains essential of human living, it is embedded with negativity and positivity. It is dualities and contradiction, where you will be handicapped if you are not allowed to move freely in a safe manner, but it's also promote negativity when you get stuck up in a traffic or in any kind of work you are going to when you are traveling from one to another place. So therefore, this is very, very important that all this growth and development, all this management, law and order and governance, all this rural areas and urban areas connectivity, all growth of agriculture, industry, employment, and urbanization have their close link with the efficiency and effectiveness of the transportation we provide, So provide, mobility is increasing day by day. We are moving all the time and all possible moments, And this this mobility has been made accessible for the reason we have technologically grown, We are now have better means of transportation. Earlier we were walking, then we're cycling. Then, in olden time, everybody was going through a sea, and that's, naval, those ships, they were one used for capturing all the nations because inter-nation mobility was through these sea, not by, land itself. So we find, these mobility and the countries who ruled over the country, who ruled globally, the countries which were, progressing or had better means of transportation. So therefore, all this has done its own good or bad work. This has created a new kind of culture. This has also, helped in spreading globalization and liberalization of economies. It has also brought in more industrialization, sharing of knowledge itself, and it's going to be different and distinct in years to come. The way we are building and we are having our technology. We were earlier, moving on the land. Then we are having those steam engines. Now we are having Vande Bharat, and you are having super trains, which are running at 300 to 400 kilometers. And maybe, next trains may be running at the 1,000 kilometers per second, Then maybe you are not moving, you are just standing somewhere and you are making a move, Then the road itself will move. That could be the next agenda of this urban mobility. But, over the year you have seen the human beings are traveling more and more. For the reason there are better mechanical vehicles. We have road infrastructure, which is becoming very, very good and very, very, effective and efficient. You are having highways, you are having expressway, you are having autobahns, you have motorways, you have underpass, you have flyover, and you see, the new infrastructure is being created. And all these cities are being redefined by the network which is being created. So this is the context of the city. And you see, this is going to happen over a period of time. And we will also see how the people live, how the people work, how the people move is also going to change. But nevertheless, if the urban areas are engines of economic growth, the transportation is the wheels of that engine. So no growth and development of city will be possible unless it is adequately supported by the wheels of transportation. That means the transportation becomes more effective, efficient, safe, economical, etc. After looking at the positivity of transportation, we must understand that this mobility, this efficiency has implication for human living and human society and for economy, for environment and ecology. They must be, quantified. And we see this transportation has social cost because it's causing accident, it's making you physically inactive, it's taking away time when you are commuting, you are wasting time. That is the worst kind of time you can spend, this most unused time which you have, Then there is, do have economic implication. You have inequitable access, rich people have better placed in terms of accessibility, where poor and the old people are, or the other physically handicapped remain marginalized. So on one hand, if it's increasing prosperity, on other hand, it is also impacting poor in a very focused manner. So ultimately, you find that in addition to social costs, the transportation is putting economic costs. When you are spending more time in travel, that means you are losing that time from your life, from the social life, from your active life also. That means the cost of transporting things from one place to another at is a slower pace. And there are certain places you are moving at a 10 to 12 kilometers per hour, and in require when the required speed is at least 40 to 50 kilometers. That means more time is spending. The city is paying for these goods and services because this is slower, movement of this. So city becomes less productive because the cost of transportation is increasing. We have the problem of pollution because all, these modern systems they are all running on fossil fuel. And fossil fuel, we're burning fossil fuel. We're generating carbon dioxide. We are creating greenhouse gases. And the efficiency of engine. And they are not able to convert the entire energy into entire fuel into energy. And we are at the 40 or 50%, half of this goes still waste, So this is lead to large emergence of large pollutants, and this all global warming, climate change is happening because you can attribute it to the way where, the pollution, the green, transport vehicles are generating that pollution. In addition to air pollution, there is a noise pollution also, which disturbs community, which disturb human living, and it has mental and physical impact on your health and hygiene. You remain always conscious when you travel on roads because safety has emerged as the major concern. You are never safe, because in India you find that every 55 seconds there is a accident reported. That's official record. Every 3.5 minutes somebody is losing a life on the urban roads. So you can see the this city, these roads are becoming a kind of areas for killing. And you can see this is the second largest killer after the diseases in India. I said the mobility has its own implication. Moving of vehicles, they emit carbon emission. And this picture shows you, that carbon emission, basically the transport sector consume around 22% of the total energy. And that energy is consumed by what? Your cars, 40%, your trucks, 34%, your air is 11%, your waterways is 11%, and 4% is only your railways. You can see yourself, where they are doing this damage, and 74% is basically the energy consumed by automatic this energy, but 20%, 22% energy. And what is the implication of that? And if you are able to minimize the mobility or accessible or this, pollution, particularly of the cars and the trucks, and you can promote the railways, surely you will find this world becomes a much better place. So all I said, basically global warming, climate change, rising temperature, and all flooding, they can attribute to the way we're traveling. It's a adversely impacting living pattern also. You can see, when you are depending largely on vehicle, that means you are not doing any physical activity. You are always in a mental stress, and this is creating a problem for you. So long sitting has been diagnosed to be the major reason for obesity, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes, etc. So please understand, they are not that global warming or climate change is happening. Your own health is at risk. In addition to your physical health, obesity, and diabetes, you are mentally also being impacted. So commuting stress has known to be own impact on the mental well-being. And if you may be physically happy and healthy, but mentally, if you are stressed while traveling, surely it will ultimately impact your health and hygiene. This faster means of transport has changed the shape and size of the cities. Cities are melting now. Cities are spreading. You don't know where the city starts and where the city ends, because you are able to travel much faster and quicker. We are still lucky, but all American cities and all European cities are basically melting away. The cities are decaying. The city centers are just getting diluted, because communities are moving out. Everybody wants a home. Everybody wants an open space. Everybody wants, the big lawn, etc. And individual parking that can only be possible when we are moving outside the city in a rural setting. And that's what's causing, urban sprawl. And urban sprawl has its own meaning. It is, vicious circle, which is leading to your cities, destruction of the city, making more reliant on car, burning more fuels, making you travel longer and longer. And you can see, when you look at the urbanization, there are two gifts which have been provided by this urbanization. That's number one, you're always traveling. And secondly, you're always getting trapped in a traffic jam. So you find there are traffic jam, there are gridlocks, there are wasted times. And you can see This has the implication not only on the time and your health also, because also on the working of the vehicles and consumption of fuel. So ultimately, you are looking at, that the traffic congestion which is beyond your hand. And sometimes, you have to go to catch a train. You have to catch a flight, Even when you are starting 3 hours before, you are not able to reach and, catch your flight. You miss the flight. This is all happening because you can't predict the state of traffic in a particular road, So traffic congestion is another kind of negativity, and we all know, this environmental impact I have already said, this is causing 2.4 million premature deaths from outdoor air pollution caused by transportation. In addition, when you are looking at cities, when you are looking at transportation, we are looking only the mobility. We are looking at people, material, the things to be moved from one another, and we're looking at the systems, which are required to transport it. But we never look at the amount of resources which have gone into making of these vehicles, India is producing 30 million vehicles every year. 3 crore vehicle हम हर साल पैदा कर रहे हैं. And please understand the challenge before us. We have only 2.4% of the global land and 17.7% of the land, population of the world. We are already 1.46 billion. We have only 32 lakh square kilometer of land as against 1440 lakh square kilometer of the global land. Russia has 11% of the global land. We have 2.4% of the land. America has 7.2% of the land. They are housing how much population? America is less than 1/4 of the total population. And Russia, I can say 1/10 of our population. They are much placed before us. We have, scarcity of land. And these vehicles, they are not moving in air. They are moving where? They are moving on the earth, They are moving on the land. And secondly, each vehicle requires, it's easy to move on the land. But what is more problem is making them park, You must have 3 spaces marked for them. One at your home, at your place of work, and then again your school or leisure, wherever you are, So maybe less problem, because for a vehicle, when you analyze the output of vehicle, only 10% of the time in a year, and that is around, you can see 36.5 days the vehicle is on the road. Rest 90% it is parked, So in addition to that, it is consuming land, and we are all having problem of land. Then it is adversing economies, because all this, we are now shifting to the electric vehicles, but most of the still 95% vehicles are driven by fossil fuel, petrol, diesel, or LNG. Can you imagine? India spends 30% of the total import on the oil itself. Every day we are importing 6.5 lakh tons of oil from outside the country. I don't see the logic, when you don't have the, and I'm just, adding, India, for its fuel consumption, 87% is the dependence from outside source. We are only having 13% of the oil to meet our own requirement. And I leave it to your wisdom, to see and understand. If we don't have a land, we are scarce of land because we are the most land-stressed country in the world. Secondly, we don't have a fuel, because 87% of the fuel is being imported, Can this country afford this kind of growth and growth dynamism? That we are 30 million vehicles are producing annually, Can those vehicles be accommodated on Indian roads? Only, 150,000 vehicles are just exported. Rest of the vehicle are to be absorbed in the city itself, where the cities are going to land, and you can see yourself, that where we are landing itself. So that means, and all you see, find the problem is, you can see the all conflict with America is only because of what? We want to source oil which is cheaper, which is being offered by Russia. And they think, we are doing a great disservice. We are trying to promote the war and we are supporting Russia. But look at the kind of options we have. And they are all created by the availability and pricing of oil. Somebody asked, Churchill, why are you voting for the creation of, not creating of the Israel? He says this word runs, only regime that runs on the right and wrong is the regime of God. And this regime runs on oil, and Arabs have the oil. So that's what we are supporting. So that's the reason, it is not only you're driving a car, you must understand, that it is also impacting the national economies, If we stop importing oil, I think we'll maybe surplus in our import and we won't have a problem of balance between import and export, When you are traveling, you are with yourself, The longer you travel, longer you are with your own self, That means you are cut off from the society. You are in a place, in a social. I am not, I'm not just trying to tell you something there, but you look at this. If it's a physical, economic, environmental implication, the transportation has social implication also, because it weakens the community bonds itself. And you also see that creating transport, that require a lot of money, infrastructure. A 1 kilometer of metro, maybe, on a ground require 100 crores, Underground, it may require 350 crores, In 1 kilometer highway, maybe 40 or 50 crores of rupees. How much highways we are building, how much, metros we are building. You can see there are billions and billions being spent only for people making the move, And once this money is going in the transport, that means we have limited resources. We are compromising money available for education, for healthcare. That means once you are putting more resources in mobility, that means other sectors are going to be impacted, And please understand, the more rich you are, better placed you are in terms of transportation, because you can hire any equipment, any best of the cars in the world. You can even buy your aeroplanes to move one place to another. But who are the people who are impacted, The people who have limited money, the people, old people, people who don't know driving, people who do not have resources. They remain deprived from, moving from one place to another, just, accessing employment. And you see how people are traveling, poor people are traveling, this promoting economic disparity. You are seeing transport systems being enlarged, metro being constructed. There are many things which are lost in the process, You are losing new roads, new railways, new airport. You are marginalizing your cultural heritage. Even when we have technologically grown very fast, you find the remote hills areas, they still face the challenge of accessibility, because that is where people are. There are less people, but it is very expensive. It is technologically more difficult, because you may be have to put tunnels, to provide access. So these remote area remain also marginalized. And you find now that this transport is now technological driven. You must have read, yesterday, all this international mobility was impacted simply for one reason, because security was breached in the airports, So people, they were not able to run those all mechanical system of people, allowing the people to enter, to people check in, and to see, you can see the how this airport and air system are mechanized. Since the system were hacked, so they were all creating chaos in all major countries of the world. So therefore, when you're looking at large deaths caused by pollution, large deaths caused by the road accidents, realizing that nothing will move without the better transportation, I think now we need to relook and developing sustainable and inclusive transport system that prioritize, individual and environment. We look at the problems of issues facing Indian cities. They are in terms of efficiency, accessibility, and sustainability. They remain the prime agenda. That means all system of transportation must be efficient, effective in order to move you from one place to another. It must be easily accessible, must be sustainable, must be safe, must have adequate capacity, capability. But you find overall these things, safety, security, sustainability, what has emerged as one of the major issues is the accessibility, because people want that the transport must be accessible right at your door. Please understand, all your journey start from home, and in majority of cases, it ends at your home in the evening. So when you are moving, your first thing what you want is that right from your door, there will be somebody who should be able to take you. That means it's only possible when you have a personal vehicle. Either you walk, or you cycle, or you have a scooter, or a motorcycle, or a car, That will give you accessibility, and that is the reason why these are personal driven vehicles. They are having those kinds of things, but they have impact on the, operational efficiency of the city and sustainability of the city. So, this problem of cities facing the transportation blues, you can attribute to number one, we are not making transport integral part of the urban planning process. Secondly, cities are becoming major areas of concentration of population. You have seen, in 2011, we were 30%, 31.2% urbanized. That means out of 1.21 billion people, only 377 million were living in urban area, rest were living in the rural area. But look at this, by 2050, it is projected we are going to be 1.6 billion and 800 million people will be living in urban area. That means urban India will be another, 2011 to 39 year. Another urban India is going to be added, That means cities are going to be more populated. Cities are going to be more dense, Cities are going to have more number of vehicles there, So therefore, there is going to be concentration of people in the cities. They are going to be concerned once there are people, there are activities, the size of the city will be increasing, your travel demand will increase, your travel distance will increase, Once travel demand and distance is increased, you have no other option. How to move them safely and quickly and efficiently, Then maybe if you have resources, go for a personal vehicle. Then otherwise, you will have to put mechanized vehicle to move these people, We are traveling on the personal vehicle for the reason we are becoming, our income level are rising. And you can see the technology has made possible that we're producing maximum car. Earlier, we had only Fiat and Ambassador car. They ruled the world for 40, 50 years, But after Maruti came in, we have different levels of vehicle. All the best vehicle are available in the world. So they are available next door. You have only to pay money, get them, buy it. And that's what, your incomes are rising. our attitudes are changing. We are now believing more in spending money and enjoying life, and that's what is leading to car ownership. There were earlier, there are more people cooperating, collaborating, but due to individual, if there are 4 people in a family, there are 4 cars available. Now, ultimately, we are traveling. Earlier, we used to travel for a purpose, for a need. Now, travel has become a habit. Saturday, Sunday, all your children say, where are we going? They think we don't need to sit at home. So you find there's the way the cities are planned, there is increasing difference. We are using pure land use planning. We're increasing distance. We are having new and new area coming up away from the cities. That's increasing distance between living and working. That is increasing your travel. And there are better infrastructure available. You're easier, fast modes of travel. That's what you are traveling. In addition, when you are looking at this, you're finding the Indian cities are marked by heterogeneity in traffic. On the same road, you have a Volkswagen, you have best and the most costliest and most fast-driven vehicle, and there you are same. You find a animal-driven vehicle is also sharing that. So all slow, all fast, all manual, all mechanical, you name, they are all there on the Indian roads. So this is a heterogeneous traffic. They have no discipline. It first come, first serve. They are all there on the roads, and they think road is their own property, and they can occupy it, and they are free to move. The number of cars are increasing every year. And now GST has been reduced. You can see this year what will be the sale of car, because we think, this car is only one time investment. No, this is a perpetual investment. It drains. When you look at the life cycle cost, please understand it has a lot of meaning and lot of cost to this. Then you don't have the road capacity. I've told you, the cities are never planned for these all autobahns and everything. Cities are all core cities. They were all human, based cities. They were animal based cities. They were not mechanized. So you have low road capacity. You have poor road geometry, because for us, the transportation remains the least priority as a technical know-how. So in addition, when we are producing large number of vehicles, we are not even bothering the vehicles which are outdated, which are outlived their life. And you can see, if you can do the survey, you will find 10 to 15% of the vehicles are as old, 30 to 40-year-old. They are just parked. They are not being used now, because there is no, because they are not being disposed of. Then transportation, where to go? Public transportation remains very inadequate. We have low priority for traffic planning. We have, low priority for people who are walking and bicycle, and we have poor traffic management. There's multiplicity of agencies, and there are a number of roads where accidents being caused. So I think these are the issue which needs to be addressed when looking at holistically. And I said India is now becoming the world capital of producing vehicles. And we are going to have vehicles, and you can see the vehicle in Delhi were more than the vehicle in all 3 other cities combined: Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. If you add up these vehicle cities, vehicle and these available in these cities, Delhi have more than that. And you can think of what is Delhi. You can see how the Indian transport is moving. How there is a conflict between man and machine. This is how this is not a borrowed movie. This is all Indian system. How these cars are there. Where are the you have public transport? Where are they available? What kind of service they do? And you can think of, this is Bombay, which carries 1.07 crore people, and this remains the lifeline. And what kind of travel people have this? And you can see all this, the way people in Bombay live. Are they living a human life, or they are living what kind of, congested life you can think about? You have a potholes, you have pollution, you have accidents, you have no parking, no order, So that all leads to what? That we must have a system. We should change the total options. We have to re-look at the system of transport and traffic itself. And please understand, all this traffic and transportation is a human-driven problem. And when you are looking for a solution, humans are the problem. There is nobody outside who can do that kind of things. So I think we have to realize, that how we can make cities and human being or this environment relevant, sustainable, and supportive of the environment and ecology. When you're looking at the sustainable transport, we're redefining transport in terms of social aspect, in terms of environmental and its climate impact, use of energy, infrastructure, transportation, safety, ease of accessing, equity, cost and comfort, and last mile connectivity. They all cumulatively which go in the agenda of making cities or this urban transport more sustainable. So sustainable transport has been defined differently and distinctly by the experts, by the researchers, by the scholars. And they say it is one which allows basic access to meet the development needs of individual, company, and society. That's universality with safety. Safety remains the priority. And coupled with what, coupled with consistent with human and environment health. They are looking at humanity, they are looking at environment, permitting equity within and between successes. That means it is also inclusiveness, between the existing population and the future generation. 4 issues have been defined that, in sustainable transport, that means it's accessible, it is available to all the people, it is inclusive, it is embedded with safety, and it takes care of the human and environmental health. The other scholar defines sustainable transport as the one which limits emission and waste, because you know that how much emission and waste is generated by the transport. So they say sustainable transport is one which is minimizing emission and waste to the level of what, planet's ability to absorb them. Maybe you are working now at from the linear approach to resources to the circular economy, So therefore, they are looking at limiting emission and waste, which this earth can absorb, minimize uses of renewable resources, maximize use of renewable sources, minimize non-renewable sources, and minimize consuming land and generation of noise, So they are focusing on waste, resources, land, and of course, the noise itself. So sustainable transport will be ultimately be related to your health, your affordability, your accessibility, your social impact, and also how it impacts the environmental quality, So social, when you sum up it, sustainable transport should be able to make positive contribution to environment, not hit at you. Promote social and economic sustainability, benefit poor household, household by offering low carbon transport option, minimize environmental, social, economic costs of travel and system, promote national economy, reduce vehicle emission, help migrate transportation from fossil-based to alternate resources, make transport sector more effective over entire life cycle. It also should ensure that it is improving access while reducing environmental and social impacts, managing traffic congestion, making city more vibrant and livable. It accelerates sustainable development create more job, improve commuter safety. They are looking more bicycle-driven vehicle and pedestrian-driven vehicle rather than, having mechanized vehicle. So it provides easy accessibility to employment, universal accessibility to poor and poor, and offering opportunity for saving people time and increasing household income and making a sustainable transport a win-win situation. So look at this, the priority will change. Walking, this is the priority. So ultimately, what is the option available? That please understand, if you want to have a sustainable transport available within your city or make your city more sustainable transport, first thing, look at what is the infrastructure available. So first, don't start creating new kind of infrastructure. Optimize existing transport infrastructure. Redefine shape and size of the city. Make city more compact. Check the urban sprawl. Promote transit-oriented development. Opt for the principle. We have to reorient our principle. We should change from planning for people, not for vehicle. Please understand this is very, very important. You should plan for people, not for vehicle. You should promote accessibility, not mobility. You should reorder priority of mobility. Opting for you have highest respect for pedestrian cycling. Go for public transport. Railway stands out rapid transit system. Make sure that roads are equally spaced for all kind of vehicle who are using. And in case people are misusing, you may use the mechanism of road pricing, as Singapore has used. You can leverage technology, and of course, you will have to involve community. So first, I said infrastructure. Second, make cities compact. You should have the different. You must see the difference between a road and a street. When you are planning a road, you are dividing the city. When you are planning a street, you are connecting this. So it's if you are changing the typology of the city, make the city more compact. Don't plan for cities like one circle, ring road, second ring road, third ring road. I think we are doing injustice. We are just making the city melting away. How can we, allow this kind of things to do? I think planners have to do their work. So ultimately, what we have to work, we have to redefine our agenda and approach to planning of the city. We have to make cities more compact. We have to reduce distances between work and place of work and place of living and amenities. We have to minimize the need of personalized vehicle, reduce congestion, environment pollution, promote road safety, promote pedestrian cycling. And once you are not allowing cars, you will not require that many roads, and no parking space, and city will itself welcome. And they call it 15 minutes or 20 minute city. If cities are compact, this will be much. You have all this, major this mass transportation running on the periphery or on the major highways, and rest all people are walking. Chandigarh was the first city to give a define an agenda of 10-minute city. Here, the city is composed of sector made of 800 meter by 1200 meter. That's 1 square kilometer of area, which will have a population of 225,000. From any corner, you could move within 10 minutes to this city, any place within of this sector itself. And sector was planned and designed as self-contained cities. It was city within a city. You don't need to go out for education, for healthcare, for entertainment, for shopping, for employment. You will all be here. And only for specialized needs, you will be moving outside this city. That's one agenda which was given by Le Corbusier right in 51 when this city was planned. Before you, Masdar is a city which is example, 50,000 population, a city of no car, no waste, a city where there is no car permitted, a city which have all making use of the solar winds. The roads are very small. For the reason there are no vehicle, you are allowed to come to the city by using a mechanized vehicle or electric cars or a trams, but within the city, you are only allowed to run on iPod. There is no waste. Everything waste is generated. They are having, solar based power station. All houses are generating the electricity for them. They are using water and recycling water. They are having narrow roads and using the formula of Rajasthan, which they said, each building are shading one another. Ultimately, is a city. This is a reality. Cities and already doing it. It may have certain fallacy and falters, but it's one example where the city is a zero carbon, zero waste, and zero car city. TOD was invented by Jamie Lerner as an option to decongest cities. That means all your housing, all your working, all your place of living, all your education, healthcare, and shopping should be all available on the routes you travel, and they should be where you get down. It's your destination, not a point of transfer. He was the man who gave the idea of this. So then I said, you change the travel option. So when we hear the priority, now if the least priority goes to pedestrianizing cycling, now the first priority goes to, when you are planning for people, the first priority is pedestrianization, cycling. Second is public transport. Third is sharing system. And last and the least will be the personal transport. I think the role, relevance, and importance of the cycling has never been understood in the urban transport. This is the best ever invention made by humanity for traveling over shorter distance, because it's most expensive, it is most flexible, environment friendly. It creates no noise pollution. It doesn't require any energy. It requires minimum space on the road and minimum space for parking. It is financial least cost to the nation and society. Because it doesn't consume energy. No oil is to be imported. It makes you more happy and healthy. It does not believe in depletion of non-renewable sources, and it remains best of the option over traveling over short distance. You can see the space it occupies. The car, same number of people. If they are traveling by car, by bus, and by bicycle, you can reorder your transport cross section to see where the priority goes. So globally, now people are opting for cycling. But when cycling is going to be made and pedestrian is going to be there, they are designated area where safety is ensured and where nobody is allowed to be permitted. This is in Lima what they have done. And this is what they said, that you go for mass transportation. When Jamie Leonard took up the mayor of Curitiba, he asked how to move the people. People suggested that we should have, these metros. He says, how long metro will take to be a reality? He says, 10 years. He asked, what is my tenure? They said, 5 years. He said, you think I'm a fool that my tenure is 5 years? I'll do for a job to solve a problem which is 10 years later. So he was the father of, bus-based rapid transit system. And you see, he was able to remove all those notions of this metros, etc., and he redefined the city of Curitiba. Then public transport remains important, and I don't have to brief on that because of the area, because of mobility, capacity, capability. But only thing I'm only telling you, you have to be carefully designing the mass transportation. It is the accessibility which remains important and which is remain relevant for the people to access it. That is very, very important. The study made by Delhi IIT about the Delhi Metro said that this milestone, that the Delhi Metro has been able to move 7.8 million people per day. It has saved 32 minutes of travel time of every person. It has gone to a saving of 10,000 crore in fuel and time. He says that this has made city much safer, much greener. And you can think of, without these metros, what Delhi would have been. Istanbul dedicated 42 kilometers of road only for BRTS, and they are able to move 6,20,000 people on daily basis. Ahmedabad has already done this new system of rapid system, and it has done good job. This Bombay is, of course, devolving over a period of time. And Curitiba was saying, they were able to migrate about 85% of the people. That means they were transporting 2 million people every day. Whereas only London subway does 3 million, whereas he was able to move around 2 million people. And this is being followed by 300 cities now. Jamie Lerner, who was an architect, who invented this. TOD was also invented. Of course, it has been said you can do for allocation, equitable allocation of space. So there will be less space depending upon the capacity. So more priority will go to, have vehicle which have more capacity and that can rationalize this. In Singapore, the model is different and distinct. There you can't own a car. If you have to own a car, you will have to have a right of entitlement, and that's ROE. ROE is only sold by the government. You have to bid for that. And sometimes the cost of ROE is more than the cost of vehicle itself. Number one. Number two, that ROE you buy, only then you will get a car, or vehicle. That vehicle is only valid for 10 years. That validity is 10 years, and you can get it extended for 5 years. That means after 15 year, that vehicle must be outside the Singapore. Thirdly, roads are priced. It's not free. That means the moment you will car on the, or you will car will come on the vehicle come on the road, there is ERP system, electronic road pricing system. You will be detected. That means when you are not free, the roads are not free. So when you come on the road, they will track you. The amount of distance travel, amount of the time spent during the congestion, everything is marked, and there are different rates for that. You pay for that also. So roads are priced. And Singapore has now said, we have already allocated, they are only island, they have a problem of land. They say we have only a land of 778 square kilometer of area. We can't afford to waste land, and they say wasting this land is being wasted. And they say, already more than 18% of land of Singapore has gone into roads and parking. And they say we are not going to do more. So they have stopped issuing more LOI for new car of this. So this is how they are able to
host and panelist.
Please एक minute कम करिए. So
this everyone की तेज ना.
ने please अगर unmute कर मैं. So ERP is one of the method which is used by this. Of course, you have to engage people, make them understand. Technology remains one of your best agenda to rationalize traffic and moment, and you can do a lot of things. There is this transfer. I said this technology can help you, which are not being used to use. When you're looking globally at these cities, there are a few examples which has been done. UK Department of Transport they have already published a plan. They call it decarbonizing transport for a better, greener Britain by 2050. And what the option they have suggested is they are shifting modal shift from active and public transport, decarbonizing road transport, decarbonizing freight transport. They are innovating, city-based solution. They are reducing use of car. They are promoting public transport. They are saying that if you shift from air to rail, you will have 60-fold reduction in carbon dioxide. I was just telling you in Singapore, that there are only number of they have been able to restrict the number of vehicles, but they have best of the public transport available. That is, you can get it. You won't be handicapped, and they are reasonable and they are accessible. They are accessible all the time and all the places, and they make city very inclusive. Germany has done, they have owned their agenda. They said they are promoting public transportation along with cycling and walking, and they are defining certain areas in the cities where cars are not being allowed. US is known. US is the, they have greater promoter of road-based transport, and they are the largest consumer of the energy, fuel energy. They are also looking at that how to minimize the transport itself and how to make it sustainable. They say we will provide public transport. Many cities in America do not even have like city like Detroit, they do not have this public transport. So all you have to be depending upon the personal transport, and that's what the state of majority of American cities, but now they're accepting that there will be larger coverage by public transport, and they say we will be using new technology for promoting public transport network. We'll be encouraging walking and biking by providing wide pedestrian pathway, creating bike share station, locating parking lots far away from shopping centers so that it acts as disincentive, and then say we are not providing limiting street parking. So there will be different option, and they are saying we are taxing, we are making gases more expensive, we are increasing parking fee, we are increasing tolls. We are now inducting more fuel efficient vehicle so that we can raise money and then spend it on the sustainable transport. In Paris, they have already re-entry travel, where 53% trips are made by walking, 3 by bicycle, 34 by public transport, where 28% trips are made by walking, 30% by bicycle, 18% by public transport, and only 23% by cars. Copenhagen, you can see 62% people commute to school or work by bicycle. So therefore, you can only understand, Bhutan is the only country where there's no traffic lights. Can you think about a country without any traffic lights? Please understand that there is no traffic light in city of Bhutan, and they are carbon not neutral, negative. It's a country, and they have been able to take care because I think they are not just bitten by the bug of consumerism. So what are the options available? I think we have to redefine, and for India, I think we have to redefine our national policy and creating action plan on promoting sustainable transport. And I leave to your wisdom, if we have limited land and we have to accommodate more and more people, we are most land stressed country, where our population is going to increase to 171 crore by 2063. The land area will remain the same. There will be more congestion, more urbanization. Where are people are going to be accommodated? It's difficult to accommodate people. Where to accommodate the vehicles? I think that's what we have to understand. Will India opt for road-based transport when their land is limited? Number one. When the oil is not available. Number three, you are using so much resources in making of the car. In all vehicles, there are 12 kind of 5 metals. You have steel, you have aluminum, you have copper, you have plastic, 5 metals, 5 non-metal, and 2 composite, and millions of tons, you are using the natural resources for making this car. Forget about the running of the car, I'm saying in the making of the cars. How you are going to, you are finite, we are finite, Our earth is finite. We have finite resources. The way we are producing car, I think, will be shortly running away from all these resources and will be short of that. So I think we need to relook at in our circumstances when we don't have land, when we don't have oil, when there are more people going to be in the urban area, and there are more older people, more people who have lesser affordability. Should we opt for providing car free for all to everybody? I think we must come out a rational policy of promoting sustainable development. Secondly, we must make sustainable transport an integral part of city planning process. The planners are not thinking. They are only thinking they are drawing lines, 1 ring road, 2 ring road, 3 ring road, They are not understanding what they are doing. They are expanding cities. They are increasing distance between, place of work and place of living. they are necessitating movement of people, large number of people. And for that, you need mechanized vehicle, more travel distance, more travel demands, and this will make cities sustainable. So therefore, I think we, as a planner, we must have to relook at the planning, and we have to make, first it should be transportation, that how much area we are using, how much resources we'll be using, whether this is eco-friendly or what kind of things with this option which is going to there. So in fact, transport should become the agenda based on which the entire superstructure of the city should be defined, like it has been done by city of Curitiba and Colombia, Oregon and Vancouver, etc. Then we should have an enabling legislation for making transport sustainable, because it's all free for all. Then making sustainable transport integral part of teaching learning process, all technical education, all these architecture and engineering college, we must, and our planning school must embed this as integral part of teaching, so that people understand the context of what they are building, what they are planning, and what they are constructing. Then we should all says, whatever transport option we are doing, we must see what are its impact on sustainability and climate change. That means, like, you are having a project evaluation, environment impact assessment. So all these city plans must be checked on the altar of their impact on travel, traffic, climate, etc. So we also need to have adequate trained manpower who can do the planning of transportation, because very few schools are running, specialization in transport. And transport, we think, is only a mixture of urban development. So we don't have transportation. People don't even have the like city like Amritsar, Jalandhar, you can see there are no urban transport planner in the even in the town planning department and the local government. So the all cities are being planned without by somebody who doesn't know the transportation. Then community involvement remains very, very important. We have to redefine our master plan to minimize travel and making cities compact, change option for city planning, that is from planning for people, not for vehicle, and promoting accessibility, not mobility. We have to move from pure to mixed land use planning, transit-oriented development, changing people behavior to travel, changing priority for travel. We should opt for mass transportation, and we should also look for harder option of equitable distribution of land. Maybe we go for intelligent transportation, bicycle sharing, and we should use technology to make transport more effective and efficient. We must make it affordable, cost effective, inclusive, and of course, we have to see that nobody is deprived of. I'm closing with the last, I will drive your attention to SDG 11. And SDG 11 says that out in that, there are about 10 targets which is to be done. And this is 11, SDG 11.2. SDG 11 says making cities and community safe, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. And within that, they are addressing different aspects of planning, open spaces, disasters, architecture, green buildings. But they are also touching this as one of the methods to make cities and community more inclusive. And the mandate is that by 2030, all the nations of the globe must provide safe and affordable, accessible, sustainable transport for all. Number one, that means this city will, all countries will basically have the onus of providing safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport for all. Improve road safety, expand public transport, focus on need of vulnerable section of society, particularly women, children, person with a disability, and older person, and the person who doesn't know the driving. Provide universal, convenient access to public transport without discrimination based on sex, age, income, caste, and creed. Coordinate transport with land use planning. Use mixed land use planning, juxtaposition, employment, residential area, and accordingly They want the transport policy and the option needs to be redefined by all nations. I think India needs to redo its work, and that's what, we should be able to make our mobility much better, much planned, and much, I would, sustainable. But let me tell you, it's easier than done, because we are all thinking of mobility. Mobility remains the sense of life. Mobility remains the, fulcrum around which the entire growth and development of this city moves. We think by mobility, we are achieving everything. But look back, sit back and look at, what this mobility, what urge for mobility is causing you. It's impacting your health, hygiene, national economy, environment and ecology. It's making cities safe. You're killing people, when you're using mechanized vehicle. All this has to be looked in. So if at all this world is to be made a better place to live in, I think we have no better option but to go for a sustainable living. And I would request all these scholars who are attending this, they should all look at cities where they're placed, identify the problem. There can't be one, fit solution for all. Surely the people need to be involved. The urban local bodies and development authority has to be just roped in to educate people to understand, and look at the limitation caused by the present system of transportation, and so that we are able to mitigate the hardship caused by this unsustainable mobility. I leave this to your thought and hope this presentation of mine will have some meaning for you. I know you are all very well educated, you are all scholars, you are all, understanding the total gamut of planning, you're all traveling, you're all getting stuck up this. Look for, provide some time and thoughts, how you can make these cities more, say, livable and sustainable. That can only happen, if you can minimize time for travel, you opt for living, opt for working, opt for human health and, mental health, but minimize role and importance of the city in making human living more qualitative. Thank you. Thank you very much. I stop it here, and I hope I have been able to communicate with you something about this. Right? Any question? If there are, I'll be happy to this. I hope I'm not exceeded my time.
Yes, sir, sure. 5 minutes before, sir.
I'm just keeping it for questions.
Yes,
I
yes,
thought
yes.
Urmi is there. She must be
Yes.
staring at me why I'm wasting my time.
Now, house is open to everyone. Please ask your
Not
queries
at
and
all.
questions. Yes, participants, please ask your queries and questions.
Can
Yes.
I chip in? I think it was an excellent presentation, sir. And you have covered most of the points that I thought I'm going to say in my presentation. So I think, when I will start, I will be repeating myself.
In fact, let me tell you.
Thank you so much.
No, I'm grateful, but let me tell you. Repetition doesn't mean you are copying. Repetition means you are trying to emphasize these are very important. People should be reminded again and again. These are the things which they can be note of. I think they should be able to understand. It's not. Thank you very much. I hope I was meaningful. I was able to communicate with this. Can I
Yes, sir.
leave the ground?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You discussed in a very beautiful way transportation and urbanization, sustainable transportation. You refer Chandigarh, Abu Dhabi, UAE, Singapore, Bhutan also. That in India, there are many places where the traffic problem is there, and how we can plan city, because transportation is also a lifeline of a city. So beautifully you discuss each and everything, your experience, over here, and definitely the participant will get benefited from your insight this discussion. Thank you, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
for the opportunity. I think, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very good evening, ma'am. So we are honored to host Dr. Urmi Sen Gupta, reader in spatial planning at the School of Natural and Built Environment, Queen's University, Belfast, UK. Dr. Sen Gupta is a distinguished scholar and an internationally recognized academic whose contribution to spatial planning, urban development, housing, and sustainable transitions have been widely acknowledged. Her expert talk today on urban mobility addresses a subject that lies at the heart of our urban future. Mobility in cities is not merely about transportation, it is about access, equity, sustainability, and the creation of inclusive spaces where people can live, work, and thrive. At a time when our urban landscapes are evolving rapidly, her insightful will guide us in rethinking how planning and design can shape healthier, smarter, and more sustainable cities. I invite all participants to actively engage with the session, to ask questions, and to draw inspiration from Dr. Sen Gupta, global perspective and rich experience. This session definitely will surely open new horizons of thought and strengthen our collective journey in education, research, and practice. With great pleasure, I extend a warm and respectful welcome to Dr. Urmi Sen Gupta, and I request all participants to join me in giving her wholehearted attention and appreciation. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And I hope you can see the screen and you can hear me well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I must say, like in this part of the world, we use MS Teams, and I'm quite used to using Teams, but hopefully I can make things work. So, good afternoon and good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session. And it's an honor to join you all, albeit online. I'm hoping that the technology will be uh, with us on our side and I don't get dropped off. So we remain connected for the next hour or so. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Professor Narayan and Professor Mitu as well for setting this up and for all the help up to this point. And I guess we have about an hour or so, hour and a half or so, during which I will take you through the relationships between land use planning and transport issues and challenges, mainly from the UK perspective. And after a fantastic and comprehensive presentation by Professor Gupta's presentation, I'm going to take you to a slightly different sort of a, world region. And as I said, I think he has very efficiently covered most of the points, but I hope this session will provide you with some useful framework, examples, and maybe slightly new ways of thinking about urban mobility. Having said that, I must say I don't think the UK model is perfect either, I must say. However, we can build on some of the experiences that I'm going to share with you, and I hope you can see my slides. And as I said, I'm happy, like I think you all can see the slide. So, yes, just to set the context, really, the content of today's presentation is a common topic. It's a common knowledge, and I think we experience this every day. As the world urbanizes and as our consumption grows, it brings new challenges in terms of how we move people and goods so that it adds to the quality of living for the people. And that's because urban space has to serve multiple competing functions, as we know: living, working, leisure, recreation, sports, and so many more. And land use planning is the process of assigning space or urban space to various functions and land uses. And transport planning is about designing systems that meet people's mobility needs through a balance of private vehicles, public transit options such as buses, trams, trains, and active travel modes such as walking and cycling, which are gaining popularity in many regions. While several countries continue to expand road networks and build flyovers to accommodate rising car use, many European cities are prioritizing the development of cycle lanes, walkways, and greenways to encourage a sustainable travel. And at its core, good transport planning is not just about moving people efficiently, but also about creating cities that are more accessible, livable, and environmentally sustainable, whether through active travel, public transport, or private mobility. The central problem, I guess, we face is how to integrate both land use and different modes of transport together so that urban growth is sustainable, efficient, and inclusive, and how to make the trade offs across competing priorities in the city building process. So basically, in this presentation, the slide shows the broad structure of for today's presentation. Basically, I'll take you through some of my own some of my observations on the topic, and also bring some examples from the UK and Europe as, like, just to demonstrate my points. And at the outset, I must say that this presentation is a bit, like, I would say, more macro level, high level, and doesn't really get into land use and mobility issues at the site level or at the neighborhood levels. And so you can say these are macro, very macro perspectives on urban mobility and town planning. Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty details, I would like to signpost to one of the most important elements built into the global agenda of city making or city building now. Professor Gupta has already talked about sustainable development goal, and I am sure most of you may be already familiar with these 17 sustainable development goals, which have become the global benchmark for any developmental projects. And these slides highlight the many goals that transport is directly connected to. Effective transport system contribute to reducing poverty and hunger, improving health, supporting innovation, addressing regional inequalities, advancing climate change or climate action, including SDG 11, which is about building sustainable and resilient cities. I would say, need to see this in the context of urbanization. More we are getting urbanized, I would say we are facing more problems. Well, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but there is a correlation between, I think, urbanization and the way the world is moving. And it's a common knowledge now that since 1950s, the world's urban population has risen from 30% to over 55% today, and will reach 68% maybe by 2050, as we know. And in the UK, urbanization has been stable at around 84% of the population living in urban areas since 1980s. So in a way, you will see for the past 50 years, the UK has been maintaining that 83% or 84% mark. However, when we look at the car ownership in the country, it has risen dramatically over the last 60 years. Though we were able to kind of maintain the urbanization level, but when it comes to car ownership in 1950s, there were 2 million cars on UK roads. And today, you won't believe there are 33 million cars on UK roads. So, urbanization, suburbanization, rising affluence, well, we are getting richer after day, with every passing year, are major drivers of this growth. So, SDGs have become more and more relevant today. As Professor Gupta mentioned, we have finite resources and it's a finite world. So we cannot keep expanding. Okay, just to zoom in, with this slide, I was just trying to kind of unravel the SDGs a bit. The inner ring shows the core SDGs that transport and mobility contributes to, right? Directly linked to. Outer rings pick up on more detailed objectives. This is just an illustration of how interrelated all of these issues are in the city building process. Simply put, a city's sustainability is fundamentally shaped by the transport networks it develops and relies upon. Because after a point, you actually first you develop, we planners, we architects, we develop the network. Then after a point, we start relying on that structure, right? And these networks influence not only how people move, but also how they live, shaping lifestyles, the built environment, natural ecosystems, and even the social relationships that we have with our friends and families and colleagues. Um, so let's just look at some of the stats before we kind of proceed towards the main topic. This is from International Transport Forum, and the data is slightly dated. It is from 2021. The importance of transport and urban mobility is increasingly recognized globally. I think you all will agree with me. Globally, transport infrastructure receives massive investments, billions of dollars annually, as this chart shows. And China has been the leader with up to 6% of the country's GDP spent on transport infrastructure. And I thought it's worth mentioning China because it is like India, it's a very big country. And this is largely attributed to the country's Belt and Road initiatives, which has massive focus on making, I would say, isolated regions and more accessible for investment, though. So they are working at a more regional and national scale. They have rolled out these initiatives and to remote areas of, as they say, of Pakistan and Nepal as well. In terms of investment, India spends around, please correct me if I am wrong. I think based on the data that I could access to, India spends around 1% of its GDP on transport. Now, I do not have a view on whether that is too low or too high, but it certainly feels that more can be spent, right? We are talking about India and India's 1% GDP. But investment alone is not enough, right? The key challenge is how can we maximize the benefits of this spending? How do we ensure that transport investment supports economic growth, reduces inequality, regional inequality, all forms of spatial inequalities, and promotes sustainable urban development rather than just adding more roads or trains or more planes. So it is not about that number, it is about how we are doing our things. And so, this brings us back to the basics and to approach urban mobility in a more nuanced ways. As a layperson, and I will not claim I'm not an transport expert, but as a layperson, we would expect urban mobility to follow these four principles. And not only in transport, but in every facets of development, I think we need to have at least four principles. We need to remember these four principles, which are equity, efficiency, safety, and green agenda. Equity, as the slide says, relates to affordable access to jobs and services, right? Everyone should have access to jobs and services. And that can be only possible when people are connected, people are well connected. Second is efficiency relates to compact development that reduces travel time. Third is safety. Safety relates to better design and enforcement, lowering accidents, right? And the fourth one and is green relates to modal shifts that reduces emissions. And we need some sort of a behavioral changes. I mean, as Professor Gupta said very correctly, it's easier said than done. And I think it's important that first we need to be able to follow the template. We need to teach our students, if you are in academia, how to go about it. And then we can sort of preach. As they say, preach what you practice. So we need to start walking. We need to start using public transport first before we can, recommend or come up with a set of recommendations. Anyway, I'll come to that point later in the presentation. So basically, I love those images, and it gives a visual illustration of those four strands of urban mobility that we just discussed, and I'll not dwell long on this slide as I'll briefly explaining each of these in the next few slides. The first point is equity, and as I said, equity is very important. It should be for all planners and architects. It's very important. It's about how to create that equitable world. And over 1 billion people in the world are in slums and squatter settlements and living in informal settlements, as we know. And some of the big cities have unprecedented levels of people living in informal settlements and in abject poverty. Urban mobility plays a crucial role in enabling people to lift out of that situation they are in currently. So we are not to be seen as planning at the macro scale, but I am talking about planning at the micro scale. I am talking about planning for those who are not maybe seen in the policy sort of agenda. On the slide, I have some of the stats which highlights the role of transport in creating equitable communities. Just to pick out a few, in many developing cities, access to jobs and services is significantly limited by inadequate public transport systems. We build cities first and then we start thinking about public transport, right? There are new housing development coming up, new informal settlement coming up in every nooks and corners of the country. But, we kind of wait for that settlement to get very mature and then start thinking about transport, especially public transport. And World Bank figures reveal that in some urban areas, only 26% of the jobs can be reached within an hour using public transport. I'm talking about those areas or those pockets of the city where they have public transport, but only 26% of the jobs can be reached within an hour. Similarly, UN Habitat highlights that better mobility can increases access to healthcare, education by over 50% in poorer neighborhoods. I'm kind of talking about from a slightly different perspective, but I think again, these are important considerations. And there are other figures which suggest how improving transport systems, could boost job accessibility for low-income population and increase productivity. These findings underscore the transformative power of efficient urban transport system or a model in enhancing equity and opportunity in developing cities. Um, well, you heard about Bogota. Here I have an example. Again, I will be bring Bogota, Colombia as an example, which has been held as a success story. Unlike many public transportation systems around the world, the Transmilenio system is run without any operational subsidies. Operating as a public-private partnership, which is great, it created an efficient organizational arrangement in which public sector provided the infrastructure investments financed by fuel and local taxes, while the private sector managed its bus fleets, fares, and ticketing systems within an agreed upon framework. And so there is a very nice kind of a, split in terms of responsibilities between the private and the public sector. And these buses, what I loved about it, these buses run on their own lanes, so are unaffected by the traffic. They have their own road network. So most importantly, the system connects many low-income neighborhoods to central employment to the central areas, and they also kind of connect them to employment, education, health, and economic opportunities. Because dedicated lanes allows buses to avoid traffic delays, riders are faster and more predictable. And the Transmilenio system has yielded large reductions in travel time, according to research, which matters particularly for those who cannot afford long commutes, who cannot afford other means of transportation in the country or in the city. So studies show that implementation of Transmilenio increased welfare on average, higher income gains, access to broader labor market, and reduce inequalities in access to jobs. It is coming from a small country. We know Colombia, it's a very small country, and which went through years of political unrest. So well done to Colombia, well done to Bogota for coming up with such an innovative transport solution, and which talks about equity, and equity. Coming to time, well, we all know we about different forms of poverty, but I'm talking about time poverty here. We all are time poor in this day and age. We are trying to do so many things, right, within that 24 hours. So the second principle is around time poverty. And the image captures the daily reality for millions of people in megacities. Miles of standstill traffic, overcrowded roads, and inefficient public transport. For low-income residents, this means 3 to 4 hours lost every day commuting, getting to their work and coming back from their work, often in unsafe and uncomfortable conditions. So what is the solution? Of course, there could be many solutions. Solutions is investing in efficient public transit, like bus rapid transit system, metros, and that can drastically reduce commute times. And India definitely is at the forefront of that. We have excellent metro sort of a system in most of the major cities, in most of the major kind of mega cities. So that can drastically reduce commute times or commuters' times, increase job access by up to 40%, and boost household income by 10 to 25%. And these are global figures. If we can plan things properly, perhaps we should be able to achieve some of these statistics, or, look at some of these, positive trends as well. Third is safety. And the third dimension focuses on safety. A pressing concern in many parts of the world, particularly in India, The country holds the unfortunate distinction of having the highest number of road fatalities globally, with over 150,000 deaths each year, as reported by the Ministry of Road and Transport and Highways. Alarmingly, two-wheelers account for nearly 40% of these fatalities, often the result of poor road conditions and lack of adequate safety infrastructure. Beyond the human toll, the economic implications are significant. According to another World Bank report, every dollar invested in road safety can yield a return of $3 to $8 by saving lives and preserving productivity. Now, these figures, let's not get into the, how right or wrong some of these figures are, but these figures definitely underscore the urgent need for targeted investments and policy reforms to make roads safer, especially for the most vulnerable users. Um, Moving on to look at Vision Zero concept. Now, Vision Zero is a strategy to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries through urban design and placemaking principles. First implemented in Sweden in the 1990s, Vision Zero has provided successful, it has provide a successful model across Europe, and now it's gaining momentum in the major American cities as well. Cities like New York, London, Chicago, Stockholm have adopted Vision Zero, implementing strategies such as lower speed limits. That's crucial that you have lower speed limits, pedestrianization, bike lanes, etc., etc. Shared surfaces, again, another tool to slow to encourage people, to encourage the road users to slow down. The image is from Oslo city center. This is the city center of Oslo, which is mostly pedestrianized except for key intersections. And as such, Sweden's Vision Zero strategy cut road depths by over 50% through urban design policy interventions, according to research. So, it's a huge thing, cutting down road deaths by 50% by slowing down, by thinking our intersections or road intersections carefully, and implementing some good urban design and placemaking principles. The fourth dimensions of urban mobility focuses on going green, as Professor Gupta has already highlighted, a shift that extends far beyond climate benefits. Greener mobility is about creating healthier populations, stronger economies, and more livable cities. Transitioning from car-dominated urban planning to clean, people-centered transport system is vital for tackling climate change. And transport accounts for about 24% of the global CO2 emissions. And I think it's a common knowledge, with urban transport being a major contributor. However, switching to public transit, walking, and cycling could cut down urban transport emissions by 30 to 40%. But the question is, are we ready to do that? Are we ready to make that sacrifice? And a single full bus, again, another statistic, a single full bus can remove 40 to 60% cars, 40 to 60 cars from the road, significantly lowering emissions, traffic congestion, and energy consumption. Similarly, metro and the bus rapid transit, as they call BRT systems, emit 45 to 75% less CO2 per passenger kilometer compared to private vehicles, according to, again, World Resource Institute. So the economic case is strong too. These are some of the, different aspects of, we are talking about different aspects of development. But if we look at this economically, the economic case is very strong too. Every $1 invested in sustainable mobility generates $4 in return. And cities that have embraced clean, efficient transit system like Copenhagen, Amsterdam, Bogota consistently rank among the highest in livability and happiness indices, and showing that green transport is not just sustainable but smart, healthy, and could be considered for future plans. We just need to slow down, think before we act. Think very carefully before you put forward that transport plan. What is it that we are trying to achieve by putting forward another transport plan? Because I think we already know what we need to do. It is just matter of, taking action, changing our behavioral style, our transport behavior. Some of these could be applicable easily in smaller cities, in smaller Indian cities as well, or at the neighborhood scale, if not at the city scale. But it's just that we need to take a pause and start questioning ourselves, what is it that we are trying to achieve when we are putting forward that next transport plan? Okay, another example. This is quite close to my heart, and we discussed Copenhagen, and just to illustrate the point further, with a population of around 1.3 million, Copenhagen can be compared to Chandigarh. I was looking at Chandigarh and I was looking at Copenhagen, and which has a similar population of about 1.1 million. Correct me if I'm going slightly wrong here, but more or less, I'm just comparing Copenhagen with Chandigarh, and we know what the strengths of each city are, right? While Copenhagen leads in green mobility through investment in cycling tracks, everybody cycles, which is great. Chandigarh holds strong potential to adopt similar eco-friendly transport solutions too. Um, if of course I mean I know we depend on cars, but we can adopt similar eco-friendly transport solutions given its manageable size and layout. It has a fantastic plan, very like grid planning, orthogonal planning, perfectly planned. But I think there is an opportunity to explore, like and see if we can slightly change the way we kind of the basically if we reconsider our travel pattern or travel behavior. Perhaps the real difference is in the density. Copenhagen has 15,000 people living in 1 square kilometers, and in Chandigarh it is just 9,000 per square kilometer. Overall, the point I'm trying to make here is that it is possible. It is definitely possible, but we may need to change our approaches. Just continuing with the green theme of transport, I'll be very quick here. I'm slightly digressing here, but this is a slide that stays in my mind, and I think from my student days, as the slide shows what basically the slide is showing how things were in London in so what sewage did in 18th century London, transport is doing the same today to the world in 2025. There are serious health implications of polluted vehicles and overuse of cars. I think this point was extensively covered in Professor Gupta's presentation as well. How transport is ruining human health. Okay, so the takeaways from these examples is that good land use planning reduces need for long commutes, and mixed use zoning, or let's say compact development, make walking, cycling, and transit viable. Um, Affordable housing near transit enables a more equitable access to opportunity, and urban mobility planning must be aligned with how land is used. So, how do we integrate sustainable transport approaches into our plans and policies? The relationship is pretty straightforward, as we know. The relationship between transport and land use is, however, though straightforward but is complex, as reflected in the diverse objectives of sustainable transport planning. Goals like system integration and smart growth highlight the need to align transport with land use, supporting compact, connected, multimodal development. At the same time, priorities such as modal diversity, affordability, and resource efficiency show that transport decisions influence not only just mobility but also social equity and how land and energy are used. Balancing these objectives reveals the intricate two-way interaction between how cities are built and how people move within them. Again, just continuing with the previous theme, urban density, as I say, density is quite important, and urban density also plays a crucial role in shaping transport patterns, particularly car ownership. The form and the structure of the city directly influence how people travel. As planners, as architects, we know this. In general, higher urban densities, measured by people per hectare, are linked to lower car ownership rates, as dense environments better support walking, cycling, and public transport, right? It's a common knowledge. In low density, sprawling areas, public transport becomes inefficient and impractical, making private cars the dominant mode of travel. But I guess in medium density cities, there is typically a mix of car use and public transport. But in very high density urban areas, public transport becomes the most effective and often the only viable option due to space constraints and high demand. For example, cities like, Hong Kong, Singapore, or again in London as well. These are very, very dense cities, and you will see they have made good use of public transport. Ultimately, urban form not only determines how people move, but also affects the cost effectiveness and feasibility of different transport modes, highlighting the complex connections between city design and our mobility choices. So, to be honest, as a result, there are no consistent success stories across the UK as well, with some cities performing significantly better than others. This slide illustrates how UK cities fare in terms of accessibility to their centers. Manchester stands out for its particularly poor performance. I mean, those of you who are, Manchester football club, like you are a big fan. Some of you, I'm sure, are the big fan of Manchester football team. But it's a bad news for you all. Manchester stands out for particularly poor performance. Only around 30% of the population can reach the city center, the primary hub for employment and also in terms of education, within 30 minutes. In comparison, mid-sized European cities achieve far higher levels of accessibility, with over 80% of the residents able to reach the city center, which is at the center, within the same time frame. And this contrast highlights why European cities are often seen as leaders in urban sustainability. Their success is not solely the product of superior infrastructure, right? Latest technology. No, but also of strategic planning around density and land use, which creates a critical mass of population living in close proximity to high quality transit. So there is a lot of planning that has gone behind, you know, and for years, for centuries. And that's why they are performing so very well, because they think transport and land use should go hand in hand. Yeah. Um, so again, another comparison here. I thought it will be interesting to see how two similar sort of two cities which are very spatially or in terms of scale similar how they are doing transport wide. Now these slides compare Milan in Italy and Manchester in the UK. Both cities have similar geographic sizes, but Milan in Italy 30-minute public transport area accommodates far more people than Manchester's. You can see, like, how the right image is from Manchester and the left is from Milan. And this is a clear example of how urban form, density, land use mix, and transport connectivity determines accessibility. The implication is that compact transit-oriented development supports more efficient and equitable mobility. Okay, now in the next few slides, let us see what happens in the UK, right? In the UK, land use planning is managed by local planning authorities within the councils, while transport is handled separately by bodies like transport like Ministry of Transport, Transport for London, Department for Transport, and local transport authorities. However, strategic coordination between these systems, I would say, is limited and varies by region. In the UK, there are 4 regions, as we know. You have England, you have Scotland, you have Northern Ireland, and you have Wales. And these connected of these they I mean there is a regional kind of a difference in terms of how each region performs. So this connect often results in housing development being built far from the jobs and public transport, and increasing car dependency and reducing accessibility, especially for those without a car. There are households without a car in the UK. To create more sustainable communities, better alignment between land use and transport planning is essential. I think you all planners and architects who are online will agree with me that we need better alignment between land use and transport planning. I'd like to illustrate here how the transport system works in the UK, which is perhaps not a surprise for most of you online. Interestingly, there are multiple layers of responsibility. Transport powers are split between, as I said, central government, devolved administrations, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England, regional bodies. Again, there are regional bodies looking after transport, then local authorities, and then private operators. Okay, they have their own stories. So there are so many different stakeholders and they all are trying to do good. But somehow this often leads to gaps, overlaps, or conflicting priorities. So I think this is a common sort of a problem all over the world, that there are so many different competing authorities trying to do the same thing, but in their own ways. So the second issue is mode specific rather than integrated. We talk about special integration, integrated transport plan, but is it really happening? And why it's not happening? Because mode specific, we are planning, we are going for mode specific rather than integrated policies, and investments are often made separately for roads. There is a separate, like, authority looking after roads, railways, bus, cycling infrastructure, again looked after by Sustrans and all, and then walking infrastructure, rather than being planned as a fully integrated mobility system. So there are so many different mode specific authorities and organizations. And so the fragmented delivery, I would say, similar to what happens perhaps in India as well. For example, rail services are largely managed through franchising or concession agreements with private operators, overseen by the Department for Transport in the UK. And then you have a separate organization looking after the buses. Bus services are mostly deregulated and run by both some by public and some by private companies with minimal integration across operators. And it's really shameful because we are talking about integrated transport plan, but sometimes they don't even talk to each other. There is no common sort of platform where these people they sit together and put forward that next transport plan. Another thing that I would say that is short-termism. Funding and projects are often tied to political cycles in the UK, resulting in inconsistent long-term strategies compared with other European cities where transport planning is embedded in 20-30 years vision. They're consistent in terms of what they have said 20 years ago. They will keep saying the same thing. However, unfortunately, I'm afraid to say that's not the case in the UK. Funding and projects vary depending upon the political cycle or political cycles in the country. So yeah, just as I said, disjunct in practice. So, what's happening? There is a disjunct, there is a disconnection, and the disjunct can be attributed to institutional silos. Transport and land use agencies operate with different mandates, budgets, and timelines and policies, making coordination difficult. I think it's a huge challenge in this part of the world that, transport and land use agencies, they don't work together and they have totally different mandates, completely different mandates and policies and budget and timelines. There is often funding misalignment. The point two here, with transport funded nationally and land use locally, further complicates integration. How can you match these two when something is funded nationally and something is funded locally? Short political cycles tend to favor immediate gains. They want to see the result over long-term planning, while regulatory gaps means there is no legal obligation to link mobility with land use decisions because we are not legally, policies are not legal instruments, as we all know. There could be some very nice policies, nice reports, but these are not regulatory binding us to do the right thing. So finally, the lack of shared data and tools between departments limits joined up thinking and efficient planning. Okay, in terms of funding, as I said, funding is quite important, right, for public transport infrastructure, for cycle lanes, for walking infrastructure, for everything. And here on the slide, you can see there are massive funding gaps across different regions in the UK. According to a figure in 2018, London's investment per capita was up to 7 times higher than the whole Northeast. Just imagine, yes, London is the capital, we all know it, but London, all the investment is going towards London, and London's investment per capita was 7 times higher than the whole region of Northeast. And this regional inequality in investment is a regular theme in political debates. Yeah. And transport planning in the UK is a very hierarchical, but fragmented. It's very top down, very hierarchical, but and it's fragmented too. Central government holds a lot of power. Lot of power. Our central government holds a lot of power, especially in England, while regional and local bodies often lack the funding and authority to deliver integrated long-term plans. London, definitely, as I said, is the capital city, beautifully planned. And I'm going to talk about it in a while. But I would say we cannot just look at London and think that we are better off, because not each and every city is doing the way, or going London way. So London is the outlier, and it is our success story, no doubt about it, but showing how a single body, because London's planning is quite centralized, and it shows how a single body can deliver more cohesive and interesting transport planning than rest of the country. So London, and you can see, like, pop-up cycle lanes across London. It's, as I said, it's beautifully planned. And I'm a great fan of the city. Like, it really impresses me all the time whenever I go there. The extensive investment has turned London into a rare success story in the UK. Think about the investment that has gone into London compared to other regions. But anyways, let us see the positive aspects of London's transport plan. The city has roughly, well, statistically 9.7 million. I think there are more than 9.7 million people in London, but statistically they are saying they have only 9.7 million, and stands out for its high public transport use. 36% of the trips citywide is done using public transport, and 80% in the central areas are made by walking. People walk, cycle, or use public transport. And that's wonderful. From the 2021 census, I could see like about 42%, 42.1% of London's households had no car or van. Don't think they are poor or they can't afford cars, but it's by choice. So 42% of the London's household, they have no cars, and they use public transport or cycles happily, or walk to their respective, like, if they have to go to the work, they're happy to walk. And that implies, and this is really interesting, and I'm sure you all will be happy to know, only 57.9, almost, let's say, 58% of the households in London do have, do own at least one car or a van, right? So only 58%. And as I say, it's a very expensive city, and it's not that there is anything wrong with the household income. It's just that, only 57 or 58% of the household, they have gone for a car. This is really great, as the government is successful in promoting public transport. Both poor and the rich households use public transport for most of the travels that they undertake in London. And this is enabled by the city's high density and mixed use development, which supports an extensive network of underground, overground, and buses. It has a very excellent underground sort of a network. And policies, again, I think I need to talk about policies. Policies like the congestion charge zone, and ultra low emission zone, which is called ULAZE, further link land uses and transport planning, actively discouraging car dependency. And so I think I would like to sort of take a moment to explain what is ULAZE, or ultra low emission zone in London. So ultra low emission zone in London is a designated area of London where all vehicles must meet strict emission standards to drive without paying a daily charge. Covers most of the Greater London as of August 2023. After expansion from central and inner London, it operates 24 hours a day, so there is no respite. 7 days a week and all year round. So it's a blanket application of Woolwich in London. And as we can imagine, there are charges apply, lot of charges to vehicles that don't meet emission standards. And if I can remember correctly, it is around 12 or 13 pounds per day, which is 1300 Indian rupees for most cars, motorcycles, vans, and minibuses, like and I think it's slightly higher, but I think I'm talking about the lower band. It's around 1250 per day and up to 100 pounds per day for heavier vehicles like lorries, coaches, and buses. So 100 pounds would be equivalent to 10,000 or slightly more than 10,000 Indian rupees. So, and all this enforcement is done via automatic number plate recognition, as they call it, ANPR cameras. Interestingly, ANPR cameras are everywhere in the UK. So a lot of our taxpayers' money is going on cameras. But yeah, it is doing well. It is doing good. So this is how they control traffic, speed, parking in wrong locations to sometimes detect crime, right? Those cameras, they are great in terms of detecting crimes as well. Right. So street layout and design. Again, continuing with London. I think before that, sorry, I think I'd like to mention, it's as we are talking about ultra low emission zone, I think it's worth mentioning because what I'm presenting, I don't want to sound very critical, so I need to talk about the positive sides of the story as well. So it matters because it is great for public health, the whole Woolwich thing. It aims to cut harmful nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter linked to asthma, heart diseases, premature deaths. It benefits children, elderly population, and the lower income households, Londoners, who are more vulnerable to polluted air because it's a city, it's a big city. In terms of negative sides of Woolwich, critics and scholars, they argue it disproportionately affects low-income drivers because there are van drivers there, they don't earn a lot, who can't easily afford newer cars in every 10 or 15 years and emission-free cars, as they say. But overall, London's congestion charge has reduced traffic levels, cut emissions, and raised funds for public transport because it's all about circulating taxpayers' money. And whatever they are gaining through charging the polluting vehicles, they are able to direct that to public transport. And in very dense urban codes, like in central London, car ownership and use of cars have declined a lot over the past 2 decades, I would say, because of the congestion charge, as I just said, because of ullage, as they say, I think, which was implemented from 2018, 2019, and investments in the public transport like tube, overground, underground, like buses, etc. However, over time, benefits have been partly offset by population and economic growth. Overall, it is considered a successful demand management tool, as they say. They are managing the demand by penalizing people. So, and which is a good way, like it's a carrot and stick approach, really, right? You get something, but then you have to give up something. So government is trying to encourage use of electric cars, and I think Professor Gupta has also mentioned about electric cars. And I will be perfectly honest with you. Electric cars have gained again. They are getting popular, but they have their own pitfalls. Charging points are not available in rural areas in the UK, or charging points are not there in every city in the world, in every city in the UK. So, they are gaining popular, but, not so popular as of now. So, coming to street layout and design at the micro level, yeah, a key strategy has been around street design and layout. London is shifting towards people first street design. A lot is happening at the site level, at the neighborhood scale, and with projects such as pedestrianization of the famous Oxford Street, which is currently being sort of explored. And the city is also expanding a growing network of safe walking and cycling routes, because everywhere you will see there is a walking and there is a cycling route, and they are trying to see, of course, when you mix different mode of transport, you have to forego some of the traffic rules, but they are trying to see how this different mode of transport can be planned in a way that it's safe, first of all. And 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 yes, walking, cycling routes and traffic calm and attractive public spaces. The aim is to create a safer, more livable and sustainable city for everyone. I'm not sure, I can't see you all, but have you seen this picture before? There has been a political will to make those dramatic shifts too. As you can see here on the image, this was a picture of Boris Johnson, our, um, ex-prime minister, when he was the mayor of London. He was the mayor of London and then he became the prime minister. So it is a common story here and everybody loves it, that he regularly cycled to work. His 10 Downing Street office, his office is in 10 Downing Street, and he regularly cycled to 10 Downing Street. He never took used car or private sort of a vehicles to get to go to his work. So of course in India there are safety and security issues for our leaders, but I think charity begins at home. Policy makers, politicians, academics, they need to start first, and then we can encourage our students, rest of the world, to follow that. So it's quite important. Charity should begin at home. But it just goes to show how important it is to set a new trend. Okay, now here I have listed again four key lessons. And successful urban mobility and land use planning relies on integration at every level. And we discussed what are the problems when it comes to the UK. Strong regional or metropolitan planning bodies are essential to coordinate efforts across sectors, both horizontally and vertically. Second thing is transit-oriented development should be the foundation, focusing growth around well-connected public transport hubs while avoiding development in poorly served or serviced areas. So we need to also think, how do we or how should we connect the poorer neighborhoods with the richer neighborhoods, if any? Of course, we are talking about mixed sort of a land use. We are talking about in terms of income also. It should not be like gated communities and then you have poorer households and clearly segregated spaces within the city. That's not good planning. But again, if there are any, I think it's important that how do we establish that connection between different pockets of the city. And equally important are shared digital tools that enable cross-agency collaboration, right? We are talking about digital technology, we are talking about AI, we are talking about machine learning, driverless car. So yeah, how do we use that and how do we, you know, how do we make use of those technology? And it's quite important that there should be a cross, agency collaboration and the creation of high quality walking, cycling, and networks that support multimodal travel. Finally, sustained leadership engagement is crucial, no matter who is there in the power. I'm talking about um, how things are in the UK. And I think as academicians, I would say that no matter, there should be a political interest to make things better. And finally, sustained leadership engagement is crucial to ensure that plans are aligned with real mobility needs and deliver outcomes that work for people, for everyone, poorer people, poorer household, richer household, people with able bodies, people with disabled bodies. It should work for men and women. It should work for everyone, whoever is using that space, because it's a public space. These are all, all the transport spaces, they are communal spaces. So it's important that these spaces work for everyone, not just for those ones who can pay, who have access to cars. It should be, there should be we should plan things in a fair and equitable way as far as possible. Um, I just want to finish off with a best practice example. I would say I want to finish off with ALS code development as an example, as an illustration of successful project that brings all the threads together, perhaps. But as I must say, there are not many in the country, but there are some in the country, and it's growing in number. So the Earl's Court project is transforming a 44-acre area into a mixed-use neighborhood with thousands of homes, offices, cultural spaces. The plan integrates public transport improvements and promotes walking and cycling, aiming for sustainable urban regeneration. And planning and phase development started in the 2010 with ongoing construction projected to continue, um, and well, it's still not finished. I mean, though they said initially that they will finish everything by 2010, but I think it's still not finished, but they're almost there. So as we can see here, the Earl Code project will deliver over 12,000 jobs, around 4,000 new homes with a 35% affordable housing target. And so basically we are mixing, low income with middle and high, and 20 acres of public green space with over 1,000 new trees. Of course, we cannot create, a manager Howard's garden cities now because land is important, land is costly. And however, in the UK, land is kind of preserved as greenfield sites, and you cannot build on those sites. So you need to only consider the brownfield sites that are available. So we are constrained further in terms of availability of land because it's a small country and they want to keep it green. And so they don't allow construction work on their greenfield sites. So there are strict planning regulations in all four jurisdictions that you cannot really build on greenfield sites. So yes, there are limited brownfield sites, and so when some of these brownfield sites they are coming to the market, they are thinking how to go for mixed use development, multimodal sort of a, transport, plan or planning. And it says like it will connect three stations and features up to 100 shops, eateries, three cultural venues, and the new community hub with nurseries and for the kids, for the toddlers. And the development also prioritizes sustainability with zero carbon energy, which is great. Climate resilient landscaping, a lot of like um, yeah, they're basically trying to make sure that they are able to tick all the boxes and properly, honestly, and with 100% perfection if possible, and improved air and water quality. So you can see the map here and you can see the size of the township. It's big enough for our context here in the UK's context. And this is, I think, an artist kind of a, his imagination how the township might look. So it's quite a visual treat and how the new development is going to look like. And yeah, I just want to leave you with some of the new buzzwords and that have been kicking around in the UK, especially in academia and also in practice. There was a time, as we know, we talked about Manager Howard's Garden Cities, and we thought that's the blueprint for UK planning, system. Well, that didn't really happen. Yeah, but it's still quite inspiring the way, so many years ago, hundreds of years ago, Ebenezer Howard thought about garden cities. There are still some blueprints, some real cities based on garden cities, movement. But at the moment, we talk about 15-minute city, the city within the city, human city. We talk about people all the time. And, planning is for the people, right? By the people, from the people. So, yes, people, they are at the heart of all our kind of, developmental projects. And so all these different blueprints, I would say, and they have their own operational or they have their own potential and pitfalls and operational difficulties, but they're all unified in making a point about clever play of land use and density. Whether, I mean, to ensure the quality of life, we started with this question, right? And whether it was, I mean, to be honest, like, the planners who are online, the architects who are online, that Ebenezer Howard's Garden City also took kind of, it is mainly about land use planning. It's mainly about how do we strike a balance between our open spaces and our built form. How do we strike a balance between, open, solid and void. And I think when we look at some of the latest city planning models, whether the 15-minute city concept or like, some other concepts like human city, the city within the city. I mean, these are very good concepts, I would say. And and they're getting popular also. So all these concepts, I think it aims to ensure that everything people need for daily life in their day-to-day life is accessible within a 15-minute walk or bike ride, or like, maximum bike ride, I mean cycle ride from their home. And the question is, can you change our developmental pattern? Can we have small little self-sustained neighborhoods within the bigger cities? So these are some of the questions that perhaps we need to ask and we need to try to understand, and we need to kind of try to answer, especially like, for our students, for the public, for those planners who are working with the government. We need to take a pause. I think I will say it's important that we are able to take a pause wait for wait for a while and think what is right for the humanity, what is right for this world, what is right for, we are talking about climate change, but can we just pause and think about it clearly? And we know instead of long commutes and car dependent lifestyles, yes, it's quite nice. It's flashy to have a nice car. As Professor Gupta also said, like, it's good to have more cars, one car, two cars, four cars per household. But do we really need four cars per household or three cars per household? Why there is no, like, why government is not saying anything? It's not about your purchasing power. It's not about how much wealth we have. It's about, following some of the principles, ethics about around site planning. And I think planning regulations should be, we need to revisit our planning regulations. And so yes, I mean, instead of long commutes, car-dependent lifestyle, 15-minute city promotes local living where, work, school, shopping, healthcare, recreation, and green spaces are all nearby. So the concepts of human city and city within the city also follows like, the similar concepts. They're all saying, please take a pause. Take a pause and start thinking whether this is the right approach or not. Cities are increasingly polycentric, right? And such as Delhi, but then smaller cities, and then, at the neighborhood scale. Then, like, medium scale cities such as Chandigarh or Gurgaon are more monocentric, I think. I could be wrong, but I think they're more monocentric, and there is a gap there. I mean, the way we are kind of planning our cities. So it's important that can we not change the way we do things? And so with this, I mean, I think I would like to end my presentation, and I welcome any comments that you may have. And thank you very much, everyone, for being with me. And, thank you to the organizing committee for inviting me to come along and share some of my own observations about, transport planning. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. There are few questions, ma'am, by the pupils. One by one, I'll ask. One question is from Saroj Kumar Sarkar. How India can become number one green transport oriented country?
Okay. Right. Okay. I mean, I don't know whether I have the answer of that question or not, because India is huge, right? And it's quite difficult to say that could be one size fits all. That sort of I mean, I as I said, like, we cannot really say, well, these are the five rules to convert everything into a green sort of into green. I mean, I can say from my experience, like, UK planning goes back to land use planning goes back to 1947 when India also became, independent. And when India was going through the chaotic partition, British rolled out Town and Country Planning Act in 1947 here in the UK. That stands as one of the most transformative pieces of legislation in the history of urban planning to me. To I think most of us will believe in that. So it sort of established a comprehensive centralized system and created what we call a plan-led system. That means you got to have the blueprint, and then you got to think about, you need to think through the process very well. And as I said, we need to understand there's a difference between plan, policies, and legislations. They are not the same, right? So I can say, like, the act actually gave the local authorities the power and responsibility to regulate um, development and transport planning, and through a national framework. And but then all those 300 councils across the country with they kind of followed that. So I think it is possible to do, but we perhaps need a green sort of a national level plan first and see how that can be translated to other regions and other cities within the UK.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, another question is from architect Himmat Bhatia. BRT is successful in many parts of world. Why the system failed in Delhi, India?
I think, sorry, say it again.
BRT is successful in many parts of world. Why the system failed in Delhi, India?
Well, I am maybe the wrong person to answer this question. It's all about how you implement, how you enforce your rules and policies. It's all about enforcement. As I said, in the UK, we are struggling because, we are so very fractured in terms of how we implement our policies. There are, and also in terms of performance, there are regional differences. I mean, Delhi being Delhi, Delhi is the capital, right? And I think I am no one to suggest here, but I think we need to be more strict, more stringent, and more careful about how we are panning out or how we are rolling out policies. We can, rather than, I think I could be totally wrong, rather than rolling out policies to the whole city, we should try to roll out things like, we should go block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and then try and see how it can be, how it can be used as a blueprint. But as I said, like, it's all about enforcement, it's all about laws. And one thing we need to understand, policies and plans and laws and acts are totally different. Until and unless we will ask some of the implementing agencies that you are legally required to do this by such and such date, it's very difficult because there are always, planning has arms and legs, and there are loose ends, and sometimes maybe there is a great policy, but there is no guarantee that it will work on the ground. So as I believe, I mean, I truly believe that planning has legs and arms, and and it's important that it's sort of implemented properly on the ground level.
Another question is how to achieve better public transport infrastructure and facilities, particularly in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, which are now growing very rapidly towards Tier 1 cities.
So the question is about how to go for a good public transport system. Is that the question,
Yes, public
Dr.
transport
Nitin?
infrastructure. How to achieve better public transport infrastructure.
Right. Again, I think it's like, the London example shows, like, basically how you could discourage people to use private cars, and you can basically encourage people to use public transport. As I said, like, only 58% people, Londoners, have access to cars, and rest of the population, they don't have access to car, and there is nothing to do with uh, you know um, that they can't afford cars, but it's just that it's expensive. Parking is expensive. The moment you get into the city, sort of you need to pay certain charges. So definitely it's that carrot and stick approach. If you start charging people, if you start charging the people who are using cars, I think gradually they will switch to public transport. um I think it's more than having a good public transport. I think public transport infrastructure is there. It's just that I think in many cities, well, I did my architecture from Delhi, and when I was a student, I remember like using the DTC buses, and they were not great. They were not safe for women. I mean, those days, I'm talking about 1995, 96, 97, 98. I mean, those days, they were not very safe for women, especially students. And then, I was forced to use three-wheelers. So what does that mean? That means, like, yes, you have public transport, but we need public transport which is accessible, affordable, safe, and secure, and which operates in a timely manner. I don't know how things are at the moment, but I think it's important to have the public infrastructure, but at the same time, we also need to see how we are running that system, how we are running that. That might, encourage people to use more public transport. And we need to have some, I would say, it's all about travel behavior. And, somehow, like, we need to, uh, I know cars are very kind of comfortable, and it's quick also, it's very efficient, but sometimes it's also about lifestyle changes and lifestyle approach, lifestyle kind of it's about your travel behavior, your ethics, how you do it. I mean, are we using public transport in our universities? That's again a question. Here, for example, in my university, we are encouraged to use public transport. And we are encouraged to use public transport. There is something called carpooling, like four staff members or five staff members, they will share one car to go to the work. So there are different small little policies, and there is a big sort of a, I would say, there is a big call that, call of the day is, you need to use public transport when you can and where you can. But that change should come from within, rather than we telling the public, or telling the the community too, that, oh, you need to use public transport. So I mean, yeah, for everyone who are online, I would say charity begins at home. If you switch to walking and cycling and using public transport, yes, you can create a better world eventually, perhaps. I can't hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. Abhiroop Das, you want to ask, please unmute yourself and ask the question. Abhiroop Das. Yes, Abhiroop, you want to ask?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Hello, am I
Yes,
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 audible?
ma'am.
Abhiroop. Yes, Abhiroop, I can hear you.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. But I have a question. I also said that question in the said box. Actually, how can we implement that 20 acre of public realm and open space in the sporadic city like Kolkata? You know that Kolkata is a the development process in a very is in a very peaceful process. Actually, it's a very
Yeah.
chaotic development. How can we
Yes,
implement
yes.
that?
I mean, when I thank you, Abhiroop. I mean,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
when
Yeah.
I shared that example, right, about that's just one example, right? How the UK is trying to do, and as I said, that's a model for how future townships should look like. But definitely in Calcutta, it's a very crowded, it's quite dense, as we all know. But one thing I would like to say, Abiru, New Township, New Town,
Yeah.
Kolkata?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, from 1990s, if I can remember correctly, they started with Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3. And believe me, I have done some work and I'm happy to share with you. It's really, I was quite surprised to learn that when the planning application was approved, everything was built almost 95%. There was no proper roads, and let alone metro and other stuff. There is no metro to Newtown. You
Exactly.
know
Exactly.
that,
It is
right?
coming up. It is coming up. It is in now. It
It
is
is
in the
coming.
process.
Yes.
It's
But
coming. It is in elevated. It is an elevated portion. It is process in the
yes,
process.
but it took us
But
35 years, Abhirup. It started in
Yeah, yeah,
1990s, right? Calcutta Metropolitan like development. I mean, I remember CMDA, like when they first started planning New Town, Calcutta, right? They had all the blueprints and everything, but they were not talking about transport. So it's what I am trying to like say. It's important when you are planning cities, you think about transport, you think about jobs, you think about different services that you need to make a city work, right? Housing, everything,
yeah.
healthcare
Yeah.
facilities. And I know it took us like, this is 2025, Abiru. And as I said, it took us 30 plus years to get there. To at least now, people have started in living in New Town. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I mean, there are articles written, there is research done that some of those nicely done, like, the tower blocks, they were completely empty. And they used to call it ghost towns, like, where you have a city, but nobody lives. Why people were not living? Because students, they need to commute. They need to go to, let's say you have to come to College Street to for your degrees, or you have to go somewhere else in Calcutta. How do you go without any public transport infrastructure? How do you travel if you just have those tower blocks, but if you don't have proper transport, infrastructure? So the
Exactly,
point,
ma'am. Exactly, ma'am. I agree, ma'am. But if you see the context, if you see the context of the core area of Kolkata and its suburbs and its peripheries, and
yes,
it is a linear type of dimension. If I say about the human settlement pattern, it is in a linear pattern. So uh, the Kolkata is expanding. In that context, if you see till date, in today's context, uh, you have very chaotic and sporadic and piecemeal basis process of development in parts of Kolkata that needs
yes,
development in
yes,
terms of transportation, in
yeah.
terms of pedestrian movement, in terms of uh, what can I say? The the informal and formal sectors of the hawkers and everything. So we need to analyze that actually.
Yes, Abhirup, yes, we need to analyze that. And, I completely agree. Like, as I said, it took us 35 years to have,
मैम
to
another
get
35 years
here.
तो हम लोग मर जाएंगे मैम.
No, no, I'm just saying, like, it took us, so, like, it started in 1990s, and then, it's 2025 now, Abiru. I know, but at least we should try to plan things, especially the peripheral areas of the city. I mean, personally, I mean, I must say, Abiru, my parents, they are born and brought up in Calcutta, so, I am emotionally attached with the city, and I've done some work on Kolkata. Now, the thing is that, you cannot really touch the older parts of the city because it's already built up. But I think we can actually go for pocket urban renewals. Urban renewal?
Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
We
exactly. Yeah,
can target what I think, Abhirup, is there are two ways. One is you start with the city, and then you have neighborhoods, and then you have sites, right? And what is a site? Site is a
yeah.
micro unit of a city. What we should do is we should take an inverted pyramid approach. We should start at the block level, at the site level, then go to the, what do you call that, neighborhood scale, and then think about expanding ourselves. Yeah. So I think for older parts of Calcutta, it's important that we go for more pocket size or pocket scale urban renewal projects. When it comes to the new parts of the city, I mean, they look fantastic on, like, especially, like, I'm really impressed the way the kind of buildings are coming up. But the thing is that they are just the buildings. They are just like, there. They are not really connected with the heart or lungs of the city. So, going back to my point, I think, yes, we need to have that carefully. We need to trade and see how to go about it.
Exactly, ma'am. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
why, that's what I want to say, that we don't have dedicated pockets of landscape or urban spaces or open spaces in terms of parks that my child or someone child can play, right?
Yes, yes. It's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
It's very
So we have
important. Say,
basically, we are developing a chaotic development in a very piecemeal manner. That's my question actually.
no, no. I think we should not be pessimist. We should be, I would like to die optimist, and I think,
Yeah.
it's important that it is possible.
I would also
People
like.
have done it in the previously. It's just that we need to be careful and we need to think through the process, and we can do
So
it.
we should have proper guidelines. We should have proper guidelines and recommendations regarding that. But till date, I don't know. We're in the process. I don't know.
Yeah, things are
Thank you
slightly
so much, ma'am. Thank you
chaotic
so
in
much.
Kolkata, Birup, and nice having you. So, are you best in lovely university?
No, no, ma'am. I'm in Sister Nivedita University, Kolkata. I'm
Okay.
associate professor there. Actually, my PhD research thesis, I'm Dr. Avirup Das. I have done my doctorate from PhD degree from Jadavpur University.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely, Abiru.
Thank you, ma'am. In 2021, so I'm an associate professor in Sister Nivedita University, Kolkata.
Okay, thank you, Abiru. Thank you. Nice talking to
Thank you
you.
so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, please stop your slide sharing. Three people also want a question, ask you a question. That is Architect Kapil Rao, Jayesh, Madam Tara, and Architect Chitra Sen. So please, are you coming to ask question or I will ask on behalf of you? Yes, please unmute yourself and ask. Ma'am, please stop your screen sharing.
Did I not stop it? I think I stopped it. No?
No, it is visible.
What do I do now? Just click the share
When
button.
you click on share screen, there is a red button immediately to the right. Click that.
Where is that now?
At the bottom, next to hand raise, there is a button share. So when you click over there,
I am so technically challenged, sir. I can't. Oh, right. I can see the share button, but
yes, yes.
is
Now,
it okay? I mean, I'll just talk like this. Yeah.
okay, fine, fine. Yes, please.
Sorry about
No,
it.
no, it's okay.
Dr. Mithu, yeah, sorry.
Yes, please ask your questions, Mr. Jayesh. Yes, please. Yes, please, ma'am, sir. Whosoever wants to ask.
Uh, uh,
Yes, sir.
may I?
Yes, sir, sure.
Uh, Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for it's a very it's like visiting multiple spaces through this FDP. It's like understanding the different urban areas and understanding their transport capabilities, their upcoming shortcomings. It's a very good idea. We understood a lot of things. Sir, I had a question I put in the chat box. That question is like,
Can you read it out?
Yes, well, I'll read it out.
most of
Okay,
the
thank you.
discussions from activities like facility or augmentation. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
You're slightly, I mean, I'm sorry, at my end, you are slightly breaking up. Can you say it again? Hello?
Ma'am, his question
Yes, yes.
is commuting on the ground by means of car, bus, tram, railway, metros, etc. the only option for urban area to augment cities, make smarter? Can we think of commuting by just
Infrastructure within our
okay, commuting means of air taxis?
Oh my God. That's I've never thought
of
about it.
dimension
Maybe,
or the future or the
oh,
upcoming augmentation of the city.
that's I don't know, not in my lifetime, architect Chitra Sen ji. I mean, not in my lifetime, but maybe there will be a time when you'll know we will be flying to our work and flying to places and shopping, and there will be helipads. Because if you, I'm sure you know about Le Corbusier, and he said long time ago, like, every building should have helipads on the top. So maybe, who knows? Like, not in my lifetime, but definitely there will be a day, like, when we will be flying to work. Who knows? No, that's a very good idea. Why walk? Why cycle? Why take public transport? We will, possible. Why not? Thank you so much. That's very entertaining. Thank you.
Agree, ma'am. Agree, ma'am.
Yes.
Actually,
Madam Tara
agree,
wants
ma'am.
to ask something.
Actually, ma'am,
Yes, please. Chitrasen, please continue.
there,
Your network,
there
I think
is like
there is a problem with your network. Voice is breaking. Voice is breaking. There may be a network issue. Yes, ma'am Tara, you want to ask? Okay, there is another question by Jayesh. Do we need to design more signal, less
Sir,
rotatory in major junctions?
sir,
Yes,
I have
please.
three programs that is take up in India, like in
I'm not, I think he's breaking up, Dr. Mittu. Yeah,
Yes,
I think he's
yes,
breaking up. I mean, I can't
yes,
hear,
ma'am.
like, it's not very audible. Yeah.
Yes, network issue on his side. There is another question by Jayesh. Do we need to design more signal, less rotatory in major junctions of city for smooth functioning of traffic?
No way. No.
Okay.
No, no way. I don't think, I mean, signals are important. It's very important. We do need signals. Traffic safety and security is important. So without signals, I mean, I don't know. How can you plan or control or manage the traffic? It's important. If not human, like, back in the days we used to have a traffic police saying things, it could be completely digitized. Like in this country, even the blinds and people who can't hear, the deaf and blinds, there is a system by which you can use the traffic lights and cross the road. So yeah, we need traffic lights, we need that system, but we also need to make sure it's inclusive enough, it's for everyone. Like, let's say, a small child to people who can't see, or deaf and blinds also, it's possible. And yeah, and it is important. Why do they think that, I mean, can I ask you, why do you think you don't want any traffic light?
Yes, Mr. Jayesh, you are here? Okay, ma'am. One or two more question. Is it feasible to use separate lanes for buses, public transport as used in Bogota?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
That's where we should plan. That's where we should focus. We got to have separate plans, separate sort of a space, allocated spaces for pedestrians, cycle lanes, public transport, private cars. And sometimes what we do is, and what I tell, I mean, when we are working on a plan, we say, if you want to discourage the people who are using cars, just don't give them enough space. Give them a narrow sort of a lane, and give more space to the public transport. So what we could do is, it's very much within our control how you plan that space. And yeah, I think they should be segregated. But again, in this country, there is a concept called shared surfaces, where public transport and, like, private cars, they all can kind of move. But yes, but there are areas which are very, very sensitive. They are separate lines, like separate sort of spaces for, you have cycle lanes, you have pedestrian zone, and then you have space for public transport, and then for private cars.
One last question from my side. By providing the mass rapid transit system, can we reduce the traffic congestion? This is by Arunakshi. By providing the mass road transit system, can we reduce the traffic congestion?
Yes, certainly. Yes, that's a good, very good. That's a good point. I think yes, we should be able to reduce traffic congestion, and but it's just that I think again, it's all about the scale also. Some of the Indian cities, they are huge, right? And you need to think about, yes, mass transit, multiple modes, so that people can travel from one point to another. um, yeah, it's all about making our cities more permeable. And I remember it's a textbook knowledge that the place of origin and the place of destination should be well connected, the distance should be short, and the channel should be, you know, colorful. It should be smooth. It should be safe. And so, but yeah, of course, think about permeability. It is important that we are able to connect places and people. How do we do it? Right? That's definitely that's something that planners, architects, we need to think very carefully. And also, I would say one size fits all. That's not going to work. Something, every canvas is different, every city is different, every neighborhood is different. So you need to look at your own canvas and think what it is, what exactly would work if I do this. I mean, you need to think in terms of your site, your neighborhood, your city. And something which works in Bogota may not work in Chandigarh, or may not work in Calcutta, or may not work in Siliguri or Punjab, right? It's all about every canvas is different. And I think we need to plan accordingly.
By the time I'm two more questions added. Can we provide more enhanced censored signal technology for this differently abled and old aged people?
We must. Here, I mean, one thing I have seen, like, I was very sad when I had to, I did my architecture for the audience who are still with us. I did my architecture from Delhi, and then, did my urban planning from Hong Kong, and did my PhD from University of Newcastle. Now, what I have learned over the years, like, it is not enough to have a system, or let's say a traffic light, or a dedicated cycle lane. We need to think about the people, as I said, like, deaf and blind and deaf. We need to think about people who can't walk. Perhaps they are on their wheelchairs. And what do we do? And in this country, I have seen, whether it is traffic lights, or whether, the sidewalks, everything. I mean, they at least try to make things inclusive. It's not that everything is inclusive or everything works on the ground level, but at least there is an attempt to make things slightly more inclusive, so that, like, older people, older adults, um, there are so many older adults in the city, and you will see they are walking independently with a stick, but there is a surface which is slightly grooved. So when they can't see, what they do is they basically use the stick and look at, like, hit on the surface. And given there are grooves, they know that this is exactly the point from where they need to cross the road. So it's very nice. I mean, we can be more innovative, and I'm sure, like, we can be more innovative, but at least this works to some extent. And it's great that we are thinking about everyone.
Ma'am, one participant wants to clarify something. Avoid development on sites with poor public transport links. What does this mean?
Oh, it's simple. Like, a site. I mean, if it's a housing site, I mean, at the end of the day, there will be people who will come to live in on that site, right? And if you don't have transport, and if there is an emergency, it could be a fire, it could be a disaster, earthquake, like, let's say, I mean, ऐसा किसी के साथ नहीं हो, but आप move in के, you just moved in, and the very next day there is an earthquake, a huge earthquake, and then the whole building is shaking. And if there is no proper road infrastructure, how the ambulance or the fire safety truck will come and, you know um, can approach the property? So it's important that you need to think about the site, the development, and the transport hand in hand. They all should go hand in hand. How do we do that? Because did I answer his question correctly, and or did I understood the question correctly?
I, I hope, ma'am. I hope you. Uh, yes, Madam Tara, ma'am, you raised the hand. You want to ask question, Tara, ma'am?
Ma'am, ma'am, this is Dr. Yogita. And
Hello.
yeah, I only asked that avoid development on sites with poor public transport links. That you have answered it. But my next question is then how the urban periphery will develop? That see the development when gets developed
Right.
gradually,
Yeah.
then the transport and everything will be developed and the around
All
surrounding
right.
will get developed, right? So if you
All
are
right.
waiting for the
I
transport,
understood your question now.
yeah.
Now, I mean, I have understood now. So there is somebody called Slomo Angel, Yogita, Doctor Nagpur.
Yogita, correct, correct.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, hello, and I think there is somebody called Slomo Angel. He works with the World Bank, and a long, long, long time ago, I sort of met him, and I remember he saying something, and it sort of stays with me. He sort of I think there is a book by Slomo Angel. I can write it down, and he said you need to have the grids first, then the city. That means because what is happening, what is the difference between informal planning and formal planning? Informal sector, you will see you have roads, you have basic infrastructure, you have hospital, you have the grocery shop, or the kinara, like everything is there. But so what he said, and but in informal sector, what happens, like they first start building, and then they will start saying if they can get the electricity, if they can then build toilets and stuff like that, gradually start expanding, right? So what Slomo said, I think most cities, all cities and all countries in the world, they need to do a bit of a forward planning. And he said we need to go for grid planning, like lay out the grids first, of in terms of road, in terms of basic infrastructure, and think about the, like the population that's going to sort of live there, and then start building housing and hospitals and other infrastructure. So grid first, then buildings, then services and all, and then people. But what happens in many parts of the world, unfortunately, it's people go first, they start living, and then we start over the years, 20, 30 years, we start building that basic infrastructure that is required. So I think I forgot the name of his book, unfortunately. I'm really sorry, but his name is Slomo Angel, and you can see he has been sort of saying this for many, many years, that you need to go, we need to have the grids first.
Yeah, got it, ma'am. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the informal and formal development which required to before to go further urban development. That I got. Thank you so much, ma'am. And one
Thank
more,
you so much.
yeah, my one of my colleague from LP only, Tara, and she is not able to connect, and she wanted to ask you one thing that she wanted to add few things actually. She said that maybe India needs to go full circle on where London headed and change its route for the betterment. And maybe we need to actually we need to positively enforce that mindset of walking,
Yeah.
so the mindset of not looking down at the one who walks. Uh,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yes. Definitely. I am totally, I mean, I mean, this is what I have learned in the last 30 years, that having a cycle is a great thing. I didn't know this because when we, as kids, of course, we all had cycles perhaps at one stage. And, after that, we thought, oh my God.
एक ही
Uh,
वो विषय है जो ए में नहीं किसी
yeah. So yes, I think yes, we need to get back to our cycles. We need to kind of start walking where possible, when possible, Not every time. At the same time, we women, we are multitasking, we are busy, we have, and men also, they are all multitasking so it's important. Time is quite valuable, but I think it's important that where possible, it's important that we are able to use public transport. I take public transport every day, Dr. Nagpure, and it takes me 25 to 30 minutes. I take the train to my work, and
Yeah, me too.
it's not always pleasant, I'll say, because it rains a lot where I live. So, and I am somebody who, who is not very, how do you say, very organized. So, I get wet every day. But the thing is that I try my best to at least use public transport, whenever there is an opportunity. So that, when I'm talking to my students, I shouldn't be saying like, oh, I use car and you can, everybody else should use public
No,
transport.
and one more positive point that see that we are definitely we are adding that we are taking the public transport and all, but you are saving your energy and you are putting that energy into you're preparing your presentation, we are organizing something while traveling. So that time you are utilizing basically instead of
Absolutely.
yeah. That is also one
Absolutely.
add-on point that I
Yeah,
felt.
yeah. No, no, thank you so much. Great insight. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you very
ma'am.
much. It's already above 9, so 20 plus minutes. So thank you very much. Patiently, you
Thank you.
answer each and every questions. Maybe there are many more questions. You discuss principles of urban mobility, equity, efficiency, safety, and green. And you mentioned Trans Milenio, BRT system, Bogota, Colombia case, time poverty, Vision Zero concept. So everything you shared very meaningful and important. So thanks from Lovely Profession University and
Thank you.
on behalf of every
Thank
participant.
you, everyone. And yes, have a good evening. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes, Nagendra sir, you want to say something? I maybe thanks to you, I extended from my side. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so
So,
much. See you then. See you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
one presentation that tool are very instrumental for all of us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Narayan. Thank you so much. We'll see you again. Thank you.